Start the meeting. Okay. Okie doke. So a very warm welcome to you all to the Somer Valley Forum meeting. For those who don't know us, I'm Linda Robertson, the chair, and this is Ron Hopkins, vice chair. So this meeting also will be recorded and it'll be placed on the council's YouTube channel. If you don't want to be seen, then turn off your camera. But we would encourage you to keep them on if you're happy to do so. So also may I remind everyone to keep background noise to the minimum. Excuse me, to only speak one person at a time and not to speak over anybody. Okay, mute your microphones when you're not talking and unmute when you're asked to speak. And please indicate if you wish to speak by raising a hand or typing MIS into your laptop, and then we'll call you to speak in turn. Please do type your name in. I think we've got names of everybody, haven't we? I think so. We know who's attending. And we are aware that this may be the first time at an area forum for some of you. These are public meetings that bring together residents, ward and parish councillors and community organisations to discuss topics of local interest and help address areas of concern. There are forums for the Bath Avon, Chew Valley and Keynsham areas as well as here. And in Bath, we're currently trialling a series of community conversations in various wards. Never know where that's going to go. So we're always keen to hear your views and suggestions for agenda items. So, okie doke, you're tied up, are you? Yeah. So we don't, clear. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have any apologies, so over to Ron.
Okay, everybody, good evening. This evening's meeting is somewhat fragmented, as lots of people have time schedule clashes which have been unmitigated in this meeting. But if you'll all bear with us, we'll try and get everybody in as and when they appear or can be get here. Some updates: local plan. Bath and North East Somerset Council's relaunching conversations with key stakeholders on the resetting of the local plan and call for sites for future housing and employment development. We have a briefing note from planning, which we will circulate with the update after the meeting. This clearly outlines the current work, next steps and proposed engagement with parish and town councils and other community representative groups. And this will recommence in May, June. As you know, it's been a terrible update for everybody. It's anticipating an options document will be reported to Cabinet in July, to be followed by full public consultation in late summer, early autumn. Comments on the options document will be carefully considered in moving towards the draft local plan to be taken to council in spring 2026. That may sound a long time span, but in fact, by these standards, it's very, very quick and very, very forced. So please help as much as you can. Planning colleagues are very grateful to the parish and town councils that have undertaken the HELA site assessment work, and that feedback will be incorporated into their consideration for options. They recognise that some parish and town councils are still working on these assessments, and will continue to discuss this with individual parishes. It's a very sensitive subject, this HELA work, so we understand what's going on. Further information is in a briefing note, as I've said, which we will circulate after the meeting. Now, my notes say that we should at this moment go to the police for their report. Unfortunately, the gentleman concerned is one of the people I was talking about with a fragmented diary, and he isn't yet here. So we'll move forward to Beth, shall we?
Yeah, it's Beth's available.
So Beth, I see your name's up there. Can I ask you to come forward and do your presentation now, please?
Any chance I can come back to you? I have a baby with me at the moment.
I thought you said you were going to have a baby at the moment. Okay, just a second. Well, everybody just bear with us while we just...
I wonder if Penny
apologies.
might be able to step in if she doesn't mind. Penny McKissick from Samsung.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
right.
fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yes.
Yeah. Please,
Okay.
Penny, if you could, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for this opportunity. So, to tell you a bit more about Southside, and what we're doing in North East Somerset and what we're hoping to do. I'd start by saying this is where I started my community work in Peasdown on the estates there. I hate to say it, but over 40 years ago. So it's very dear to my heart. So Southside, we're based in Twerton in Bath, but our services cover the whole of Bath and North East Somerset, and we've been going now for nearly 30 years. So hopefully we'll continue. Obviously times are very hard for all the charities, but we intend to survive for at least another 40 years. So what we do, we support children, young people, individuals, people that are dealing with really multiple and complex challenges in their lives. And our ambition is to help them to thrive, whatever that means to them. So the people we support, their lives have been damaged by violence, abuse, neglect, and many are survivors of domestic abuse, causing onward trauma, mental ill health, social isolation, homelessness, and debt, which sounds not at all what it is. Having been at the Rislington, we run community hubs, and I've been at the Rislington hub this afternoon and working with a group of 8 parents who are basically going to run it. And that is where we're coming from. We're very much coming from, well, the fact is over 50% of the people that paid staff at Southside were service users. So it's very much a, empowerment model, not a doing to. And the services we run are basically family support, domestic abuse services, therapeutic services. We have a couple of new projects with social care and with the Violence Reduction Partnership. One is working with families that are going through child protection, but the key there, or very much the sort of sharp end of social care, the key there is that the people, that are the workers who we have trained and supported, are people that have been through it themselves. And this is a very, we find, and certainly I found of all the years that I've been doing community work, it is the most, the most efficient way of doing things, really, that people truly understand. And talking to the group in Rislington today, they've been there. They've had very, very challenging life experiences. And what they said this afternoon is that they probably get most help from each other, because they understand and they don't feel judged, and people actually are very knowledgeable about what's out there and what can help them. So everything we do has got a really clear community focus. I was very lucky. I worked for Avon Council. That's where I started in the 80s when I was working in Peasdown. And it was very much a community development approach. So not doing to, very much doing with and alongside. And that's sort of in my DNA now, I think. And I think in Southsides, that's what we do. We empower people. I don't particularly like that word, but I'm never sure what else to use. And we run a whole series of volunteering programs and training programs. And in fact, we're looking now to develop training packages to use the experience we've gained over these years. So that's us. And the very latest, hot off the press, is working with the Hive in Peasdown to set up a community hub. And what I feel, having done that in 1983 there, it's rather wonderful to go back and actually see some of those people that are now grandparents and others, and their grandchildren who are, will help inform the services that are eventually put there. So we'll be meeting soon with lots of people that have used or use our community hubs to work with the team there. So that's the very latest, and the hope is, if we can find the funding together, then that would start in the autumn of this year. And I think the government's family hub model is very much an expert model, and of course that has its place. but actually I don't even know how much it would cost. You know, I don't know, 60,000, 100,000 a year, whereas a community group, a community hub group would probably be 9 or 10,000. That's the difference. So as I say, P's down, and hopefully, you know, as we go forward with groups in Radstock and other areas in North East Somerset. So that's where we are now. And I invite you to ask me any questions. We're also working with a lot of schools in Bath, which is really exciting. Sorry, I can't retire because I just love it so much. So we're working with state schools and the private schools in Bath and North East Somerset to get young people together. You know, that there's a group from Kingswood School that, you know, could be looked on as very privileged young people in one way. They're great, they're social justice group. So, you know, hopefully they'll be coming to the Rislington hub and maybe the Keynsham hub, and we'll be working with young people there around sport, around science, STEM, which I'm not actually sure, science, I'm sure you know better than I, but just trying little sort of games with the young people, and for them to understand, you know, for those young people to understand how people that, you know, are less privileged and what that's like, and actually getting people together. So at the moment, Beech and Cliff, Kingswood, St Gregory's and Haysfield have signed up, so it's very exciting. So that's another thing, and I think that will come on board. What shape that will take will be shaped by the young people themselves, so we will see, but hopefully by the end of this year. So any questions?
I don't have a question, but
We've got Gavin and Helen.
Okay, Gavin,
No,
Lee.
I don't think we have any.
your hand is up. Your hand is up and your earphones plugged in.
Look,
Hi,
they
Gareth.
are. Hello, everybody. Hi, Penny.
Hi.
Just so you know who I am, and you might even know who I am already.
I know you know.
You know already. So I'm one of the ward councillors in Peasdown St John,
Yeah.
and I sit on the parish council here. I have a lot to do with the Hive. We run the community library in the Hive. So I run Peasdown Community Trust here, and I'm one of the organisers for Party in the Park. So it's fantastic the work that you've done here in Peasdown St John. One of my future projects is to set up, I'm currently working to set up a youth council here in Peasdown St John.
Fabulous.
So young people have a voice. The thing that pricked my ears up, which I'd like a little bit more information from, whether that be on here or later on, is you said you help support children that are, or families that are going through child protection issues. My wife is a senior social worker in child protection. So that obviously got my ears pricked up, and I just wondered how you're supporting that. And the reason I asked that question is we get a lot of institutions like the NSPCC or Barnardo's and these big organizations that say that they support people or young people going through this major trauma in their life. But what they're really doing is they're just signposting them off to social services. And they're not really helping. They stating they are, but they're just signposting them off. You go, social services, and that's how it's dealt with.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit curious on how, as an organisation, you're helping support them young people.
Okay, so the project is called Parent Advocates, and as I said, that they are parents that have been through the system themselves, and we're working closely with Felicity Groves from Baines Children Social Care, and it's still quite early days, but we're absolutely the people delivering the service, and it will be the same person seeing that family, you know, whenever and whatever is needed. Obviously within boundaries, we're quite clear what the role is, but absolutely the important thing is that is, you know, the person that you're connected with, and that's the person that helps you through. And I'm just thinking, you know, one family that I've heard about recently where both parents have learning differences, and, you know, it was actually, and I hope this is all right, but I shall say it. The woman, the mum was shaking so much in such a state. The advocate said, right, we just need to go into another room, you know, for a few minutes. And she gave her a hug. And that's what she needed. Said, you're okay, I'm here with you. So, you know, you're a voice when it's needed, but it's only a voice, the voice that parent wants to, you know, to be heard, and as much as we can, obviously we want their own voices to be heard. But absolutely, Gavin, I feel passionately about that. And you know, there's something, and I've worked for a big charity, you know, back a long time ago, and that's great, you know, but actually I really feel we need to celebrate local people, local organisations, definitely. So I should look forward to meeting up with you.
All right, Helena.
It's okay, Gavin. Thank you very much. For everybody who's confused, the view behind him is down the high street of Peasdown Shopping Centre.
If only.
It has changed since I was there.
The next hand standing up is Eleanor Jackson. Eleanor, please.
Unmute.
Right. Sorry, I didn't realise somebody else was before me. I wanted to say and I wanted to ask a number of questions, and also to say very strongly that in my experience among my residents, when there's been a safeguarding issue, BAMES have acted very fast, very correctly, and that's actually why we've got a budget problem in BAMES, because of the amount they spend on safeguarding now since COVID. So I'm sorry, I am a bit confused, because I can't quite, I'd like to understand how this organisation relates to BAMES and its policies. For example, we're just finalising the knife crime report, and if there's one thing that's rather concentrated our minds, it's the murder of a young man in Radstock in the library car park last year. So, and that's the first question. How do you relate to what BAMES is doing? Secondly, how do you relate to what the town councils are doing? Both Radstock Town Council and Westfield Parish Council have an arrangement with Youth Connect Southwest. Now, it could be that Youth Connect Southwest, to take the younger age group with a view to prevention of problems, are dealing with children or working with children, and I know a lot about their work, who are younger than those that you're aiming for. But I'd still like to know how you relate both to the parish councils and the work. Bolton and Timsbury also have arrangements. Thirdly, I had thought, but I may be completely wrong, that Southside had been part or had a contract with Youth Connect Southwest. But I think the point needs to be made, if you don't, I'm sure, well, I'll be interested in what other people say, that the situation of young people in rural areas is wholly different from that in urban areas. And the isolation, I mean, I have no problems with you starting a group in Ridlington, though it would have been nice to know about it, because I used to be the ward member for Radstock. And that was a big issue. We had a youth club running there with volunteers, but the kids weren't very keen on it. They just said, well, it's something to do. We've got nothing else to do up here. And they didn't. We found that in Radstock, the kids in Clandown, Tyning, Hayden and Ridlington don't come down to the main area. It's very territorial. So I'd like to know how you relate to the parish councils, to other agencies, and am I wrong about Southside? I had thought that up until 2012, that was actually a council thing, but maybe again I'm wrong. There was a Sure Start centre there too.
Yeah. Okay. I hope I can remember all your questions. But to start with, and it really is confusing, there are have been two Southsides in Bath, and that came about, you know, it's now Youth Connect. It came about because we did a community play. I'm trying to remember how long ago. It was, I think, 2000, and we both renamed the youth centre as it was then, and Southside. We were Whiteway Health Project, and we renamed ourselves Southside, because having talked to the people from the community, they didn't like the name Whiteway Health Centre. So hence that is a bit confusing. And now Youth Connect Southwest, we work very, very closely with and have worked with them for years. So as far as the council, we have been commissioned, I would think, for about 15 years for our family support services and our domestic abuse services. So from that point of view, you know, that is something that's, so we work very, very closely with the council. I think as far as, I don't know if you can hear this in the background, my daughter's just had an operation, so we have her dog who's making a noise. I'm going to let the dog out. Thank you, Boo. Here you go. Sorry, the joys of working from home. And I actually think that we don't do enough with the parish councils and the town councils. So I would actually take that, you know, as hands up. I don't think we do. We do, of course, work, you know, as I've said, in North East Somerset. I live in North East Somerset, and I, you know, worked there for many, many years. So what else did you ask me?
I want to know what age group you were working with, because I think part of the problem, well, it's not a problem with Youth Connect. I think they're absolutely right. When we have a 10-year-old in Westfield brandishing a knife at another 10-year-old, you can't really start too young. But I'm just wondering if you're looking at the older age group. I went to the funeral of a suicide, Jamie Hogg, about 10 years ago in Radstock, and his friends were all saying to me, we're over 18, there's nothing for us, what do we do? Can't you provide some kind of program for the older people? I mean, the older kids. So
Yeah,
I wondered
I mean,
if you fitted there or what, or
no,
not.
we because it's a whole family support, the age range is from 0 to, we have a grandmother who's 101. So it's right across the age range. Before, you know, I was very involved in the setting up of Sure Start in Southwest Bath, and at that time we were 5 to 11, and that's, you know, it changes, but now it's right across. So very young families, and often families, as we know, where there are very young children and, you know, 19, 20-year-olds.
I'm terribly sorry. This conversation is useful between you and Eleanor. Might I respectfully suggest that if you want to discuss it, we can arrange for you two to meet. I'll even give Eleanor a lift to meet you if you like.
I'd be delighted. I'd be delighted.
I will speak to Eleanor about it because I work with her quite closely. Can I call now on Katriana Kelly, who's been patiently sitting there with her hand up in the air for the last 10 minutes?
Hi, Penny. I've been watching the work of Southside for many years in Bath and very impressed with everything that you do. Very, very pleased to hear that you're planning to work in Radstock and Peasdown. I think that's a really positive thing for people in our area. I've always really admired the doing with rather than to approach. But for those of us who have had the privilege to not experience what your service users have experienced, how can we help you as local residents? What can we do to support Southside starting up in our area?
Yeah, when actually we're only starting up as far as a community hub in Peasdown. We all our services are right across Bath and North East Somerset, and we have a lot of people using our services in all the villages, you know, around. Certainly Peasdown, Radstock, Poulton, Clandown, Westfield, right across. But it's about having that community hub. So, I mean, you know, what we were saying before, that's a real. I mean, we've been running. I started First Group in 1998 in Bath, so we've been running community hubs for a long time, and it's a real shame that, you know, they're not known about, although we're commissioned service. I just wonder why they're not known about. So I think to spread the word really actually would be the most helpful.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think, you know, I'm a governor at a school. I'm involved with another school, so I'm happy to, you know, make connections with the Thrive counsellors and things like that, if that's useful.
Terrific. Yes, absolutely. And the more we think about as we start, the more we can then reach out. Thank you.
Well, thank you, guys. It's obviously a very complex and worrying subject, and it would be useful as much information could go out. You can stream as much information as you can, Penny, back into this group, but then we'll pass it out with this information on the meeting. Now, sitting very patiently with a picture of the French Riviera behind him is Kieran Cox, PC Kieran Cox. thanks for coming, Kieran.
Hello,
For
no
your-
problem at
to
all.
give us an update and take questions from our members.
Yeah,
So
so
please-
firstly, this is the first one of these I've come to. I've been off for 2 weeks and I've come back in today, being asked to attend. So I've not had a great deal of time to prepare. So yeah, please do bear with me. So I'm the PC in the Radstock neighbourhood team. I'm one of kind of various PCs that you've probably dealt with before. I primarily cover Horton, but I also cover Camerton, Coombe, Dunkerton, Ingescombe, Marksbury, Preston and Tunley. To give you some context, normally there should be 2 PCSOs and a PC that would cover this area. For the past several months and probably for the foreseeable future, it's just me. In addition to answering kind of 999 calls and football duty and Glastonbury and other operational commitments. Obviously, I've not perhaps been in the area as much as I want, but just to give you some kind of background. I've put some things together which I thought might kind of be helpful. I've got some crime stats as well, just in case anybody is interested. So in terms of like the local issues, the main thing that kind of we're experiencing is across like the neighbourhood team, but also like the response teams are burglaries. It is rife. It is primarily aimed at car thefts. So it's burglaries to gain access to keys for vehicles. Vehicles being targeted are primarily high-end performance Golfs, so VW Golfs, like the GTI and the R-Line models, as well as vans. So those are the ones that are being targeted. That's been happening a lot kind of within the Porton, Westfield, Peasdown and Radstock areas that I'm aware of. Also in Bristol, there's thoughts that it's going to be the same group who are targeting it, and they seem to be a very organised group. So that's kind of the main issues. It's these thefts. I've got notes that 3 were arrested on the 2nd of March, so only a couple of days ago. I believe following a pursuit with one of our traffic units. I think they had a vehicle that was kind of known to us for potentially being involved in these burglaries, and they've kind of failed to stop the police officers, and yeah, pursuits followed, and then they've been arrested. I can't tell you what's going on with that at the minute. I don't know. I'm not dealing with it, but that's been happening. In terms of what we're doing about it, we've got specialist kind of burglary teams that have been consulted, and they're currently in the process of reviewing all the jobs that have kind of occurred, and obviously tying it together as a crime series. Why that's happened, well, why it hasn't happened sooner, I'm not sure, but it looks like they're going to be dealing with that. In addition to those sort of kind of thefts, I think an issue across the board really is kind of scooters and Surrine bikes, you may know them as. They are a nightmare for us across the force, and I think really kind of across the UK really. We're very limited in what we can do. We're not allowed to pursue them. And even if we are, there's only a certain few people who are trained. So in Radstock, in any one time in a whole station, there might not be a single officer who's pursuit trained to follow that vehicle. However, Section 59 warning notices are being issued. It's essentially an antisocial warning notice to the vehicle. Should it happen twice, we can then seize it. And if that person is using another vehicle, we can seize that as well. And also vehicles are being proactively seized. So for me, a month or so ago, I was cut up walking along Midsummer Norton High Street by one of those e-scooters, so I just seized it. Can't speak for everybody, I can only speak for myself, but that's the approach that I'm taking. In terms of advice for the public, obviously to report all crimes. We've noticed a lot of shop thefts aren't being reported to us. I think a lot of issues that are reported don't necessarily reach a police officer, and it's sent, to a call handler. It's logged on the system. There's no evidence, and it's filed. So I think people have potentially lost a little bit of trust with people, well, with the police to report. The issue is obviously if people don't report it, then we haven't got that data. So for me, for example, I've come back today to find out that the Co-op in Porton has been suffering a few shop thefts, but none of them are reported because they feel that nothing's going to happen. But until we've got that data to say, well, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened, nobody thinks anything's happening. So for me, you know, like I said, well, actually, we've got shop thefts happening every day. I need another officer because I can't be everywhere. And if somebody else is there, you know, that could help me. Other advice, so in terms of the burglaries, obviously to upgrade property locks, we're finding that these people who are breaking into properties are using very sophisticated equipment. I'm door entry trained, and we've got specialist kit that the police use to open locks, what we call a snapper. So it literally snaps the bar of the lock and you pull it out. And these are what, you know, this is what these people are using. You can buy them in shops, you can buy them online, obviously, if you pretend to be a locksmith. So they are literally kind of going to a back door, they are pulling the lock out and they're going in. They're not smashing a window, they're not making a noise, they're doing it very quietly. We've been advised by kind of our security teams that there are anti-snapper locks, apparently. What that means, I don't really know, but apparently you can't get around them. So we're suggesting those. Obviously ensuring all outbuildings are locked. If you've got any gates, they're locked. Windows not to be left open. Obviously install kind of CCTV, cameras. That's really invaluable. In terms of the vehicle itself, steering wheel locks, people can break them, but it's a deterrent. If you've got something on there, they may just kind of walk past and go, actually, that's a little bit too hard to deal with. And also vans as well. There's obviously lots of additional locks and stuff you can get for vans, which are quite helpful. Beat surgeries, in terms of when you can actually speak to a police officer or a PCSO, all of those are available on our website. It would be impossible for me to give you a list of all of them because there's quite a few. Some beats do more so than others. But if you just go on Avon and Somerset website and type in your area, it will give you the list of all of them. That's kind of all the information that I've got. Would you want me just to share some crime stats that I've got, Alison?
Yes, yes, that would be lovely.
Fine. So in terms of us getting the data, like everything, it seems to be potentially a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. So the data that I've managed to obtain is from kind of Porton and Peasdown as a kind of a block, and then Radstock, and then Midsummer Norton. Unfortunately, I didn't kind of just have the capacity today to kind of get any more. If you just bear with me, I'm just going to get it up. So the data that I've got is for the last 3 months. So if we look at kind of Porton and Peasdown, so for violence against the person, so that could be kind of anything from kind of assault to GBH. So it's very, very wide. Between December and February, that was 64. Vehicle offences were 10. Thefts were 20. Sexual offences were 15. Public order offences 18. Possession of weapons 3. Non-recordable, so that's just something where they've not classified it as a crime at all. That's 1. Crimes against society 10. Drug offences 3. Burglaries 11. Arson and criminal damage 7. For Radstock, again the same period between December and February, arson and criminal damage 7. Burglary 3. Drug offences 2. Non-recordable 1. Public order offences 4. Sexual offences 6. Theft 6. Vehicle offences 1. Violence against a person 57. And then for Midsummer Norton, arson and criminal damage 8. Burglary 8. Public order offences 18. Sexual offences 4. Theft 21. Vehicle offences 1. And violence against the person 62. Again, in my opinion, this doesn't necessarily reflect what has been happening. You know, it is very much based upon people reporting it. So, for example, shops like the Co-op, if they're not reporting it, they aren't going on our crime stats, which is a little bit difficult. Sorry, was that a question for me? Peasdown and Porton is the name.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Eleanor.
Thank you, and thank you for the work you were doing. I've got a couple of questions and a couple of comments, if you don't mind.
I will certainly try to help. Yeah, I'll do my best.
I live in Radstock, but I represent Westfield, and
Yeah.
in both places there are county lines, and
Yeah.
I was wondering how you were getting on with the ketamine problem, and if that had been isolated. We also have a big problem with vandalism, but I guess, well, I know that the latest one in Westfield has been reported to you. I have to say, yes, I'm a director of the Cooperative Society, and we're losing a tremendous. We have these smash and grab raids on the Marcroft store in Radstock, and we're employing our own security men
Yeah.
because it just all happens so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
More expensive goods are put in more inaccessible places in the store, but it's a terrible problem, really. And I'm sorry if they're not reporting the smashes and the grabs.
No, I mean, I can understand it from their point of view. I live in the area as well, so I kind of share your frustrations. I think the problem with, I suppose the problem, but in terms of like the police setup, should you not be aware, if you report a crime, obviously you go through to a call handler at headquarters who doesn't know the area. If it's a 999 call, essentially it will be then sent. So if there was an incident in Radstock, it would come through on our radio. Now in Radstock, we've got our 999 response team and we've got our neighbourhood team. So both are very, very different roles, essentially. So whilst I work in the neighbourhood team, I will still go to the 999 calls. So you do both. So the problem is if you report a shop theft, it may never reach us. And the reason why it won't reach us is because it's not alive, because it's not happening. It will go to what we call a desktop investigator. Some are police officers, some are police staff. They normally work from home or work at HQ, and they will assess what they've got and they will see what evidence they've got. If there is evidence to support what has happened, it will then come through to us to action. But if it's not, if there's not enough evidence, it will get filed before even reaching us. The problem is, because unfortunately, a lot of these incidents which happen, there isn't sufficient evidence for us to identify an offender and to kind of seek a prosecution. It's filed off before it ever reaches a police officer to deal with. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. Unfortunately, it's kind of way above me. I don't make those decisions. But I suppose it could be a little bit difficult for people like the Co-op who have previously reported issues. Nothing has ever then been done with it. I suppose you kind of lose that faith a little bit. Like, what is the point in doing it? But I encourage people to continue to report it, because if you don't, it doesn't kind of show that anything's happened. You know, as I've just read out to you, it doesn't really show many things about Porton, but I know that there has been a lot more shop thefts than what's recorded. As well as that, we are quite good at identifying people. So, you know, if we get a partial recognition of somebody on CCTV or a vehicle registration number, we can do our own intelligence checks and we may be able to say, well, actually, that person who's stolen that is this. And then we can proactively deal with it. But we can't do that unless it's been reported to us in the first place.
Well, I'll email you separately because I don't want to hold the meeting up, but I dialed 999 4 times on a bus at 1:45. But that's a separate case. I just wanted to say I unfortunately had to go to A&E at the RUH at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I was really impressed with the way 2 police officers were helping a young woman who I surmise from her injuries had tried to defend herself against an attacker. It was really most impressive, and I think the police should be commended for the way they deal with what I assume was domestic violence. Obviously, I don't know. I could just only see her injuries.
Yeah, we try to do it very proactively. Yeah, domestic violence for us is kind of like one of our force priorities. So yeah, we try to kind of proactively deal with that. So it's really good to hear. You mentioned about county lines as well.
Yeah.
And kind of ketamine. Ketamine isn't something that, if I'm going to be honest, we as a neighbourhood team have been dealing with. So that's kind of a new one for me. Cannabis, yes. Cocaine, yes. Not ketamine. County lines, again, I think is rife across all of BAMES, unfortunately. Across everywhere, really. obviously I can't really disclose what sort of police tactics are being used to sort of kind of combat this. We do have, if you're aware, what we call an early interventions team. They used to be known as the Violence Reduction Unit. So we do have a PC who works within that team who covers BAMES. Again, unfortunately, it should be a team of 5. At present, it's 1. So she is kind of dealing with everything on her own. But I've been told that she'll be getting more staff to assist her. But her role essentially is to deal with young people who are at risk of kind of exploitation, whether that be kind of drugs, gangs, knife crime. So sort of in terms of county lines, she is obviously proactively dealing with that with the capacity that she's got. But again, unfortunately, she can only deal with, you know, a certain amount of people at one time. But that I'm not going to step on the work that she does, because I wouldn't want to say something that's not correct.
Stay on.
Um,
We've got a third one.
yeah,
Oh,
Kieran,
sorry,
have
I've
you got
left that
time?
up.
Have you got time for more questions?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
haven't.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We're-
I said
we're
I'll try
running
to answer
out.
the best I can.
We're running out of time.
We need to bring Kate in because she needs to
Yeah,
get away.
we've got somebody else coming to talk to us who's got to leave soon. So can we sort of break off with you for the time being,
Yeah,
and
yeah, of
then
course,
come
yeah.
back when she's finished? Okay,
no
that's
problem.
lovely. So in that case, I will say this is the Summer Valley Links.
Yeah.
And it's about the travel through the area. So I'd like to introduce Kate to tell us about it, please.
Mandy and Adrian, we haven't forgotten about you.
No,
we will come back to you.
We
Okay.
do know you both said you've got questions, yeah. So
Hello, hi, this is Kate Heats here speaking. I'm going to start with an apology, I'm afraid. I thought I could get into the Guildhall and use the facilities inside to do this, but unfortunately I haven't been able to do that. So I'm on my mobile phone outside, so apologies for that. I'm going to ask Alison if she could display the slides for me. I sent you earlier, yeah? Right,
See those?
sorry?
Can you see those, Kate? Can you see
Yeah,
them on
yeah.
screen? They've disappeared.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
I need
terribly
to-
small for me, obviously. So hopefully I
Oh.
can do a lot by memory, or maybe I can open them on my computer. I'm not sure. Anyway, so Summer Valley Links is a CRSTS, that's City Regions Sustainable Transport Scheme. It's classed as a strategic corridor project, and it's part of a programme of active travel and bus improvement projects that the council's delivering through funding from WECA, or from Department for Transport via WECA, basically. So I don't know how many of you are aware of it. Thank you, Alison. Yeah, from either previous consultation, which was conducted by WECA itself about 18 months ago, or just via local knowledge. But the route, the whole scheme runs from Whitchurch on the edge of Bristol, as I'm sure many of you are aware, down the A37 as far as Farrington Gurney and across to Midsummer Norton and Radstock via the A362. And then it goes back up the main road to Odd Down Park and Ride roundabout and on down into the city of Bath via the Wellsway. So there's a number of interventions along the way, as are marked on this map, which I know is probably pretty small for you as well, but it is available, well, the slide should be available to you, but the map is also available on our consultation web pages. So our focus, as I think I've mentioned, is bus infrastructure improvements, as well as active travel, walking, wheelie and cycling improvements. And alongside that comes part of the walking is pedestrian improvements, such as new signalised crossings to help people get across busy roads and that kind of thing. We're also introducing what we call mobility hubs, which isn't, it is a national thing. It's an idea of creating places around bus stops, which allow people to switch their modes of transport. So people could eventually, if we install some of these mobility hubs, people will be able to cycle to them, put their bicycle away in a secure cycle locker for the day and catch the bus to another destination. So that's what we mean by switching modes of transport. We'll also be looking in certain places at whether we can say find a space for a car club space nearby, so that people can catch a bus to the location and then maybe take advantage of the car club from there. So that's sort of examples of what we can do with mobility hubs. Alison, would you like to go to the next one for me? This is a fairly short presentation, and it is, as I said, Alison can make the slides available, but the consultation web pages are highlighted in red on every page. This slide is actually just showing some part of the web pages, illustrating the tiles, as we call them, that you can go into the web pages and click on any of those and find out lots more information about the whole scheme, or by individual location, geographical location basically, or by the type of intervention that we're proposing, so that it all comes together. We have been holding drop-in events to invite people, local residents and others, to come along and give their thoughts on the proposals. Those are listed on the right-hand side of the slide. I've just been at one for the afternoon on the Wellsway in Bath, and we're in Radstock tomorrow afternoon, open to the public from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. If any of you are local, please do come along and have a chat with us. If you could move to the next one, thank you, Alison. So thinking about the public consultation, and again the web pages that are available via the link in red, these are just some illustrations of some of the visuals that you can find on the web pages, as well as text describing what we're doing, and all the technical drawings that we have available are also on the web pages. So I know these three are illustrating Bear Flat, and one is illustrating Radstock, and one is illustrating the Wellsway. There are other illustrations as well. These are just showing examples of what you can have a look at. Next one, please, Alison. So there are 3 slides that follow here now that list what we're doing basically by geographical location. Again, I'm going to have to apologise because it's far too small on my phone screen for me to be able to actually see properly and read them out. But there's an awful lot of detail on here, and I appreciate that. That I couldn't really go through it all into the nth degree of detail. But perhaps suffice to say, we've got 27 individual schemes within the whole scheme that we're working on, and I think it's probably about 15 or so different geographical locations, including a number in the Somer Valley, obviously. So we have, I'm not sure where you draw your boundaries, as it were, but Clutton, Temple Cloud, Farrington Gurney, as I've mentioned, Poulton, Midsummer Norton, Radstock, and then up to Clandown and on into Peasdown St John and to Odddown. So as I say, I'm not going to read through all this detailed tonight because we don't have time, but feel free to look at it on the slides or via the web pages. All this information is there as well. So if you'd like to go through the next couple of slides, thanks, Alison. That again, it's showing some of the detail by geographical location. So just to finish off, it's just a little bit of the background to the project, in that it was originally being managed by WECA themselves. We took over the project about a year ago and have been managing it ourselves since then. We've employed or instructed some technical consultants to assist us and support us with the technical design, and also to submit the full business case, which is a requirement of the funding. As I said, coming from the City Region Settlement, City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement, beg your pardon, and DFT, Department for Transport. So we're aiming to try and submit that full business case at the end of the summer. So we've been doing a lot of work on looking at the previous work, doing some more traffic modelling in places and some other sort of background technical work, and are currently consulting, as I've said, on a lot of the proposals with technical drawings, which are to preliminary stage, which means they're in 2D. So there's a further stage of detailed design to go for the business case, which looks at proposals in 3D. So the consultation closes on the 16th of March, and we're very keen for people to participate. There's an online questionnaire via the web pages. And the next stage of the project from after that will be to look at all the consultation responses and analyse them, and come out with some findings, and look at where we need to tweak designs, or even go further back to the drawing board, or where hopefully some of the designs obviously will be okay and we can move straight forward into detailed design. So that's really what I was going to cover today. I'm happy to take a couple of questions. I've got about, sorry, I do have to finish about 7, but I've got 5 minutes or so if anyone has got a question.
Ron's got a question for you.
I'm afraid, Kate, that I've got to switch off from being chairman and switch on being an upset resident.
Okay.
You've done this consultation document. You circulated it house to house, cost thousands, I would have thought. Yet nowhere in that document at any point does it mention Westfield. For your benefit, in the last census, Westfield had a population of 800 more than Radstock.
Right.
And has grown considerably since. How do you explain that?
Well, I can, in that the Summer Valley Links project no longer includes any interventions in Westfield, because there is a cycling route and a walking route that forms part of a separate project now called the Midsummer Norton and Westfield Walking, Wheeling and Cycling project, and that is being taken forward separately from Summer Valley Links, although there obviously are connections in Midsummer Norton High Street, which we're working together on. But we will be coming out to the local community with some consultation a bit later on this year on those 2 routes.
Acceptable answer. How can you tell an 83-year-old to take a bicycle or a walk? And the community is divided by the A367, which is now like the M1, with more houses being built, and there are no plans for passings and crossings like you've got for other areas in. You've got all sorts of villages mentioned in there, some with populations of less than 500. But here we have a population. Here we have a population of 7,000, which has been totally ignored.
Well, it's not being ignored totally, in the sense of I've explained there is a separate project looking into a walking route and a cycling route. If you want to contact me separately after this meeting, well, not after this meeting, but tomorrow onwards.
Will you be at the consultation tomorrow?
I will. Yes, I will. You can come and talk.
Oh yes, I'll meet you there. Thank you very much. Okay,
that's fine. Okay.
I think we've got Sean Stevenson McCall. Got a question?
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm the councillor for Timsby and the Baines Council, and also a parish councillor there. It's really good to see that Wecco and Baines are putting a lot of investment into improving public transport and walking and cycling along the Summer Valley's links. What about the communities in the middle? Obviously, you're doing a lot of work on the A4 corridor as well, but what about the communities of Marksbury, Farnborough, High Littleton, Timsby, Tunley, which aren't on these 2 bus routes that you're talking about? What improvements do either Wecco or Baines have to improve public transport and walking and cycling in those areas?
That's really a question for colleagues in transport strategy, but what I do know is that the Active Travel Master Plan was adopted as a strategy by Cabinet in the last couple of weeks, I believe, which proposes a complete network of active travel routes across Bath and North East Somerset. They do, most of the ones that aren't in delivery at the moment will require, a project to be set up and funding to be secured for them. But the fact that the routes are on the plan is a positive. So hopefully you can refer to that on the council web pages, or contact. I think Nick Simons is the key contact in transport policy for that strategy. The other thing I would mention is that I don't have a lot of detail of it at the moment, but there is talk of a CRSTS 2 to start when this phase of CRSTS completes in March 2027. So there are opportunities for more projects to be brought forward for filling in the gaps, if you like, in the middle, as you've mentioned. Again, it's something being managed largely by Transport Strategy colleagues.
Thanks for the update, Kate.
Okay.
Right. Eleanor, you have a question? We've only got a couple of minutes.
I raised some of these issues at Cabinet last month, and I got a reply, which you can see on the Baines website, saying it's all WECA. The question of bus routes and so on, that was all WECA. And actually, Westfield hasn't been completely ignored. We've got a brand new super bus shelter opposite Norton Hill School. I'm staggered if you say, you know, that Westfield doesn't count, and how come we've got a lovely new bus shelter? And why is it that the Cabinet keeps saying it's all to do with WECA and nothing to do with us, mate? I would say I'm quite heavily disabled. Walking and cycling is just not possible for me.
Yeah.
And I think you need an equalities report, if you don't mind me saying so.
Yes, indeed. You're absolutely right about the equalities impact assessment, which is being drafted as part of this stage of our work on Summer Valley Links. Just going back to your point about the bus services, it's absolutely correct that WECA are the key managing organisation authority for the bus services. The interventions I've been speaking about are basically focused on infrastructure, so improving bus shelters and providing the mobility hubs, and in certain places, mainly along the Wellsway and down to the Churchill Gyratory, extra bus lanes, for example, to help the buses run to time and efficiently. So this project is focused on the infrastructure rather than the actual services, which, as I say, are centrally managed by WECA.
But we need bus shelters in Westfield. After all, the Romans went straight up the Fosse Way. I don't see why you can't, if you don't mind me saying so.
Well, unfortunately, at the moment, it's not in the scope of Summer Valley Links, but I can take that away and refer it to Transport Strategy colleagues.
Yeah. Okay, then. Well, thanks very much, Kate. I know you've got to buzz off now for another meeting.
Yeah, thank you for your patience.
That's all right. Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And
bye.
yeah, and shall we go back to yeah, we're going to go back. Yeah, to Kieran. All right, I was just looking for you on the screen. Yeah.
I'm here.
And then
Yeah, and we've got a couple of questions for you. So Mandy, you were number one. So question, please.
Hi, Kieran. Thank you. You do a great job. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great. Yeah. I wanted to ask, what do you and the police do when you hear about violence against a person? Given that I'm a councillor in Midsummer Norton, I'm interested that there's been 62 of these in the last 3 months.
So again, I can only speak as a neighbourhood perspective. I've worked within the response teams, but in terms of the neighbourhood, so normally, say if an assault comes in, for example, if assuming it's a live assault happening at that time, that would normally go to a response team to deal with as kind of the rapid response to that incident. So they would deal with it, and then they would obviously make positive action or a decision in terms of what they would do there and then. If it's an assault which has happened historically, it would normally still go to a response team to deal with.
Okay.
But it's dealt with as what we would refer to as slow time. So, for example, if I call up 101 and say, Joe Bloggs assaulted me last week, there's no immediacy for an officer to go there and then on blue lights and sirens, because there's no threat to life. It happened previously. So it would go to a response team, and an officer would essentially pick it up in line with demand, and then they would deal with it there and then. So normally things like an assault would be, for example, for the response team to deal with. In terms of the neighbourhood perspective, where we would get involved is normally when there's kind of neighbourhood tensions. So we would less likely deal with the investigation and more deal with sort of any sort of reassurance. That's where we would sit, unless, of course, there aren't the response officers to deal with it, in which case it then would come to us.
Okay,
Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. And Councillor Adrian, you have a question, I believe?
Oh, Adrian, you're muted.
Adrian, you're muted. No, you're still muted.
Right, now?
Yeah,
Right.
that's lovely.
Right. Okay, sorry. Doing a great job, Kieran. I understand, obviously, your frustrations in the fact that you're pulled from pillar to post and that you're one person in a very big cog. But one of the things that struck me is that when you say that a incident is reported, and for whatever reason, the majority of the public don't seem to be bothered in reporting them because they feel frustrated that nothing happens. It's a case of local knowledge. Now, you mentioned yourself that if you had a partial photo fit, a partial image, a partial registration, your local knowledge could potentially find that perpetrator. But the system, as I understand it, because it's insufficient and it's only partial, it never filters through to you. That seems very disjointed way of doing things. If that partial information got to a local on the ground, I'm sure your cleanup rate would be a lot better. But it's being filtered out at a high level and not coming down. What is it that needs to be done to change that? And is it something that the commissioner needs to look at, the whole different procedure, or is it really a case of not enough boots on the ground?
So I'll answer in a different couple of ways. So firstly, I just obviously want to stress that at this point in time, I'm a PC. So whilst future Kieran may be at a higher level to make these decisions, I can only answer them as a PC. In terms of the first point, in terms of obviously reporting, Avon and Somerset Police is victim-led. I can't speak for other kind of forces around the UK, but if something has happened, and even if we've got the evidence to support it, if that victim does not want to kind of proceed with an investigation or an allegation, there is nothing we can do with it, in the exception of certain crimes and kind of domestic kind of situations. So, a typical one, stereotypical, but husband and wife have an incident. Wife does not want to do anything with it, but we've got evidence to say that it has, and we need to safeguard her. We are going to overrule her decision, and we're going to proceed with a victimless prosecution. It's very stereotypical, but that's just one of those. In terms of the last point, again, I will answer as a PC in my personal opinion. So it is my personal opinion only. I think work could be done. I think the desktop team do a great job with the tremendous kind of workload that they have. They're not just covering Radstock or Porton, they're covering the entire force area, which is obviously a humongous job. And they're juggling a lot of different jobs at one go. I think that if more jobs came to us, yes, we probably could do more, which is why for me, I'm trying to kind of build on the relationships that I've got with people in my local area to say, well, actually, if you've got co-op, 5 jobs that you've reported and nothing's happened with it, email me directly those 5 log numbers and I'll look at them and I'll see if I can do anything myself, and then I can progress it. And yeah, I think that could work. I'm not saying it would make a difference, but that has worked in the past. A few logs, a few jobs have been reported, nothing's happened with it, but then I've gone back into it and go, well, actually, I know that person on that CCTV because I've dealt with them in the past. I can actually progress this job. But yeah, bigger picture. Obviously, I'm a very, very small piece in this very big organisation. And again, unfortunately, I don't make these decisions, but I do think that if there were more people or there were less demand or whatever, yeah, it can make a difference. But Avon and Somerset, they are continuing the development. They've just introduced it's called an EVR team, I think evidence video response team or something, to assist with demand. So we've got a team of dedicated officers now who will look at logs which have been called to us, made to us, And instead of a response officer having to physically go out, that EVR officer will look at it and go, well, actually, I can deal with this over a video call. So we're using technology and we are making contact with that person and go, look, I can get all the details from you from the comfort of your home. I can see you in person if you want, but I can send you a Teams link and I can take all the details. I'll take your statement over the phone or over the video. I'll collect the CCTV from you. I'll bundle all of this up in a package and I'll send it to an officer to go out and arrest them and then deal with it proactively. So I think there are things happening, and obviously I know that obviously the new Labour pledge, isn't it, in terms of more neighbourhood officers. Again, my bias, but I do think the heart of policing is neighbourhood. I think if neighbourhood policing, I'm going to be careful how I say this, but I think if there was more focus on neighbourhood policing, it would reduce overall demand for our kind of response colleagues. I think if I'm out there every day walking the streets or driving through one of my many villages or whatever, as opposed to attending 999 calls, that's going to be better. Again, I can speak for Porton. Somebody mentioned about Youth Connect. They do a kind of a Youth Connect bus on Fridays. Friday late shifts that I work, I go down there, I say hello, I show my face, because if something were to happen, hopefully by me going there, they go, well, actually, police officer's been there tonight, we better not, let's move on. But again, I can only speak for myself.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Kieran, for coming and giving us your report. I really appreciate that. We will be sending your report with other information after the meeting to assist people in identifying police officers and their surgeries and so on. And also, I would just like to remind everyone that we also provide opportunity for other public services to engage with you, such as the fire service. So the police have a standing item each time, but do let us know if you would like other services to be invited to attend, including Curo, who's our biggest social landlord.
Can I just add one thing, Sarah? Is that okay? Obviously, if anybody wants to take my details and I can help in any way, please feel free to contact me directly. I may not be the best person to help, but instead of calling up 101 and being on hold for 4 hours or sending an email and not getting a response, if you come to me directly, I can at least try to answer or I can point you in the right direction. And obviously just keep in mind, obviously I'm not always going to be behind a laptop. But yeah, if anybody wants to take my details, I'll put it in the little chat. And yeah, feel free to kind of drop me a line.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. We'll see you next time. Okay. Right then, as we said earlier, things are the agenda's being altered around a bit. So what I'd like to do is ask Beth Wally to come and give us a report on being the development officer for Baines. Okay.
Evening, everyone. Thanks, Linda. Apologies, I couldn't jump in earlier in the session, but I am, as I say, I'm here properly now. Alison, will you share my slides? Is that all right?
Yeah, Alison's just going to get them up now. Just bear with us.
Thank you very much. So, as Linda said, I am one of the development officers in the Baines Regen team, focusing on projects mainly in Midsummer Norton, supporting community and cultural engagement. And I wanted to drop in today to give you a bit of an update on the Imagine Midsummer Norton project. I think you got a little bit of a briefing about this at the last Summer Valley Forum, but we've moved on a little bit since then. So I wanted to kind of bring you along and tell you a bit about where we're up to. So I'll give you a bit of an overview of the sort of Town Centre Regen programme to date, for those of you who don't know much about it. I'll tell you a little bit about what we've done for community engagement programming, and then we'll give you some info on next steps for the programme too. If you can jump over to the next slide, Alison. So to give a little bit of a refresher on context of sort of Midsummer Norton High Street regeneration, Midsummer Norton was designated as a High Street Heritage Action Zone in 2020 as part of a scheme, a nationwide scheme by Historic England. And that catalysed £3.7 million of grant funding bids from various external bodies, Historic England, WECA, following various competitive application processes for Midsummer Norton. And that funding made possible a range of different projects, which I'm sure many of you will have heard about. So that includes the newly completed Market Square at the Island, creating 1,000 square metres of public realm, culvert strengthening and the new bus stops, the town hall transformation project, which is being led by Midsummer Norton Town Council, reinstating the Victorian Market Hall, shopfront improvement schemes, so supporting 8 local businesses with grant funding to improve their frontages, and then street furniture, street dressing, benches, banners on the high street, and a cultural programme as well, which was led by Midsummer Norton Community Trust, so supporting events and various community heritage and cultural projects. So that's what's happened so far. If we skip to the next slide, we're now looking forward to phase 2 of the Regen scheme, which is kind of looking at bringing forward various further aspirations for the town centre. And this is, we're calling it the Town Centre Plan, and this is being developed in partnership with Midsummer Norton Town Council and a local steering group of various community partners. And the plan is being developed in 2 parts. So the first part of that is the Regeneration Action Plan. That's something that's already been implemented in Radstock, and it's in progress in Keynsham as well. And what this will look like is basically a menu of various priority projects for increasing the vibrancy of the town centre. It will cover a geographical region, basically stretching the length of Midsummer Norton High Street and its surrounding areas. And it will form a basis for funding bids to fulfil some of these short to medium term kind of town centre projects. So it could include things like street furniture, street greening, wayfinding, culture and events, skills and volunteering, business support, that sort of thing. And then this will be supplemented by the Old Brewery Quarter Master Plan. So this is the kind of focus project that we're working on at the moment. And this is a long-term strategic vision for the lower High Street. That's centred around the former Midsummer Norton brewery buildings, which is where Fat Sam's was and Charcoal Grill is now. And then the kind of surrounding area, the Hollies, Sainsbury's, some of the retail buildings on the south side of the high street, and then the two main town car parks as well. And that's thinking about strategic land acquisition prospects, thinking about providing more town centre housing, additional employment land, and then alongside a kind of improved social cultural offering, so potentially more community facilities, improved public realm. It's early days for these. So we're currently in our discovery phase, finding out what the community want to see, building a kind of shared vision for what this town centre area could look like in future. If you skip to the next slide, please, Alison. So far we're in the discover phase. Well, we've just finished the discover phase. That was from September to December. And we spoke to a lot of different people to find out what they wanted to see in the future. There was a project website with an interactive map and a quite extensive media campaign. We ran pop-up displays and we held 6 drop-in events with artist-led, family-friendly activities to sort of make it as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. We also ran a bit of a schools programme and had a schools activity pack and did focus groups with various community groups, including Age UK and parish councils. So if we go to the next slide, we asked, as part of this engagement programme, we asked people to share one thing that they love about the town as it is and one thing that they'd like to see in future. We received over 300 responses to that question. So coming to the things that people love about Midsummer Norton, there were kind of 3 main focus areas. People love the community life, strong sense of community spirit through events, volunteering and local heritage. Green and blue spaces, particularly the river, the town park, the Hollies Gardens and the Greenway. And then independent shopping as well, as kind of social spaces as well as retail spaces. And then on the next slide, we'll see one thing that people imagine for the future of Midsummer Norton. And as you'll see, there was a whole wealth of different thoughts and ideas for this, but most of them could be grouped into sort of 5 key areas. So the first one being a pedestrian-friendly town centre, especially thinking about people with mobility issues. A revitalised riverfront, really kind of celebrating the river as it runs through the high street. Heritage redevelopment, so thinking about celebrating some of the historic buildings in the town centre. Thriving community spaces, that's outdoor and indoor spaces, supporting community groups, supporting event spaces and kind of really nurturing that community spirit. And then a greater diversity of retail on the high street as well as non-retail amenities, and particularly thinking about how to support more of an evening economy in the town centre. So lots of brilliant ideas to explore, and these will be carried through into this sort of next phase of the process, our developing phase. So we'll be using all of these community comments as part of a broad evidence base to inform the consultants' design work. We'll be appointing design consultants for this project within the next couple of weeks. And we'll be embarking on the next phase of community engagement over the next couple of months. There'll be a public open studio where people can come along and see the kind of emerging concept designs for the high street based on all of those brilliant community ideas. We'll be running some creative community projects as part of the next phase. So we'll be working with local creatives who will be partnered up with local community groups to create visual responses to the developing designs to go on display in the high street over the summer. And then that will be alongside a kind of another website and media campaign to make sure we're reaching as wide a cross-section of the local community as possible. The formal consultation on the draft master plan will be happening in August. So there's a little while to go yet. There's plenty of time to kind of have those informal conversations before the concept art designs are put together. So really excited to hear people's thoughts as we kind of progress over the next couple of months. So we just hop to the final slide. So yeah, really hope that I see lots of you at various events that we're running. Want to kind of hear your thoughts on how we can kind of create a really strong community vision for the next phase of regeneration. Any project like this naturally involves a lot of different stakeholders. So I may not be able to answer all of your questions, but if you have any, please do ask. And if I don't know the answer, I'll be able to find somebody who does. We've also got a project website that covers a lot of frequently asked questions, so do go and have a look, and there's lots of event information on those as well.
Okay. Eleanor's got right. Okay, Eleanor, I think you've got a question.
Well, yes, I have to say, I'm most impressed with this work, but I think it's going to be a complete non-starter because the council is introducing parking charges in the South Road car park. And we know from experience in Radstock, well, it's in Westfield really, but Radco, when they introduced parking charges about 10 years ago, they lost a third of their trade because people just tootled off to Bolton and we've never got those customers back, even though the parking charges were dropped after 6 months. So I think it'll be exactly the same story here. People do not want to pay for their parking. It may not be very rational. It may not be very logical. It's not going to make anything like the amount of money for the council that's alleged it will make. And I think it's a great pity. And actually, I was interested that you showed the Fossway Press. as a shop front that have been improved, which is in South Road opposite the car park. Anyway, that's my first comment, that I think it's unfortunate that the council's undermining your work. Secondly, bus stops. It was appalling the way we had to get on and off the bus opposite the vets in Silver Street. And I do wonder if any equalities and inclusive work has been done. But we have a situation now where people are lining up by the caps protection shop on the side for buses going into Bath, but the buses are actually coming round to the Hollies. And the jams there, when you can get buses going in both directions outside the Hollies at that very limited bus stop. And why haven't we got decent seats and real time there? It's a nightmare for people who are dependent on the buses like me. And I'm sorry, I think you've got to, I don't know why you took the bus stops out of the island, to be quite honest. And finally, I think it's very unfortunate that the regeneration doesn't extend to Stones Cross, because that is really a terrible eyesore.
Can I jump in on the parking charge point? Because I do think it's not that people don't want to pay for parking, it's that it's almost punishing people into not using cars because the ambition is to get cars off the road without putting any alternative in place. It is too difficult to use the buses because they aren't effective. I mean, lots of us live in villages that don't have a bus route. If you're trying to travel and you're not able to cycle to the nearest bus route, or you've got young children, or you're then punished for using a vehicle, but you have no other option. So it's not necessarily that people don't want to pay, it's that they're very, they're hesitant because there's no alternative. You're being put in a position where you can't win. And for rural communities, that has to be considered.
Very good point.
I think, can I just say, I think that that's between the two of you, that's a lot for Beth to deal with. And can we give her that information and ask her to get back to you with answers? Also, fully recognising that is not in Beth's control, and there are issues there around buses, which is a WECA thing, and there's issues around the payment, which happens at a Baines level. This is, I'm not saying this is something Beth can solve, but it is, not the right way to approach getting cars off the road by putting measures in place that punish people rather than solutions in place that help people. Yeah, I think that's a point, but don't think that's anything Beth can do at the moment. But I understand
as someone who lives rurally and commutes to Midsummer Norton, I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from, and there's significant challenges ahead. It's a really difficult landscape to be trying to develop the high street, and I hope that we can offer some ways that businesses can grow and that life can continue on the high street alongside the parking charges. But yeah, I mean, as you say, it's not within my gift within this project, sadly. I can speak a bit to the location of the buses, Eleanor. I've been out on the street a lot in the last couple of weeks trying to get to the bottom of when and where these buses are relocating to the Hollies, and I think we are in a position now to say that the kind of timetable has been finalised and the buses on the high street are all rerouting there, and a kind of system is in place, and the real-time information boards are being procured now and will be in place very soon. First Bus are really happy with the relocation. It's a much more pleasant waiting environment on the high streets. It's more comfortable, there's less traffic. So hopefully once these initial hiccups have been overcome, it will be a much more positive system for people to take public transport. I think, Eleanor, there was a third point. There was the parking, the buses, and one other, and I'm afraid I can't remember what it was.
I was going to say, I can't, I mean, I've been ill, so it's only the last week I've been to Midsummer Norton regularly, and of course I always remember to take my passport with me in case I get challenged, but that road is too narrow. There were 4 buses lined up there when they go Monday.
Yeah.
It's just too narrow, and the cars can't get past. There is a rumour going around you're going to make the High Street traffic free except for buses. Is that correct?
Eleanor, I'm really
No.
sorry. We're just running out of time. Could you put your comments
Sorry.
in the chat for Beth, and then she can respond to them or by email. I'm really sorry. We're running out of time for the agenda. We've got 2 other items to go. So if you've got any questions for Beth, please put it in the chat or send them to Alison, and then we can follow up with you afterwards if that's okay, because we're just short of time and we'd like to bring in the other speakers. Thank you.
Well, the answers are in the journal today.
Okay, can we move forward, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for bearing with us. I did say when we started this morning that we had a very wonderfully prepared agenda by the 2 girls here. Has been blown to pieces, literally. Please, thank you very much for sticking with us. Can we move now on to a somewhat cheerful subject, the community showcase element of our forums, something very forum-centred. Is an opportunity for local organisations to highlight a service, a project, event, or simply share some good practice. I say some good news as well. All are welcome to put forward suggestions for future agendas. At tonight's meetings, we have 2 items introducing services aimed largely at rural communities. Hooray for rurals. Okay. Supporting local micro business and residents. I'd like to ask Michael Orton, Community Enterprise Catalyst for Bath and North East Somerset. That's the title, isn't it? We'll speak about the support available for local people that may wish to set up micro businesses that support and care for other people.
All right, thank you. Alison, is it okay for me to share my presentation? Is that all right? Yeah. Got the video in there, so hopefully I'll go through quite quickly because I'm aware of time.
Okay, Michael, can you do us a favour and make it about 5 minutes? Is that possible?
I'll fly through and then and
just
then I'll
don't spoil it. Don't spoil it, but please, just bear in mind the constraints that
no.
we're under. Yeah.
Right. So Community Catalyst is a national CIC that works with local authorities across the UK, supporting people that want to set up their own micro enterprises. So can everyone hear me? Okay. Yep. Yep. So so supporting people that want to set up their own micro enterprise around care and help at home services. And we make sure that all the people going through our program have completed what we call our Doing It Right standards, so our development program, which means that they have that they're running their enterprise as a self-employed sole trader micro provider that's then legal, safe and sustainable. And that means they've got things like a public liability insurance, a DBS certificate, adult safeguarding policy. They've got a registration with HMRC. They've got a client contract, which they give with all their clients, invoicing, and that they have a proper policy around data protection and privacy. But also they will have things like a complaints policy and other documents that we ask them to put together. And my role is to help support them going through that process. Micro enterprises can offer a personalized and tailor-centered support. They're very much rooted in the community. So our mantra is very much local people, helping local people to support local services. It increases choice in relation to the care and help at home services, and also provides more independence both for customers and for enterprises, so that actually it gives more choice for people that are looking for care or help at home services. And this will cover things like domestic, personal care, domestic duties, cooking, cleaning, taking people out on social trips, doing prescription pickups, all those kind of things that can improve quality of life of people at home. And I just wanted to show you a quick video. So this is who we are.
We lost you, Michael.
There's no sound, Michael. You might have to stop sharing and then.
Yeah, sorry, I just realised I forgot to do that. But start again. Yep, so that's a mistake I made last time. Apologies. Sorry. Start again.
Michael, please don't worry, because we can send out the link to the video afterwards.
Yeah,
so
the problem is the
we can
video
share that with everyone.
kind of gets across clearly what it's not letting me do it. Right, so we just.
Hi, I'm Michael Orton and I'm from Community Catalyst working in Bath
hear
and
it
North
now?
East Somerset. Over the last 18 months, I've helped over 32 new businesses to set up and thrive in the community.
Going self-employed is incredibly intimidating, and Community Catalyst made it very easy for me step by step to know exactly what I needed to do.
My name is Adrian and I am a self-employed photographer.
Hi, I'm Rob Wiki and my social enterprise is called Wikis, where I'm coaching.
So I'm Verity. I was working nursing home work. A lot of the time it's 12-hour shifts. I didn't realise there was other options at that point in time. So I just thought I had to try and get by and pretend to be like any other normal person. What's this? Community Catalyst were very integral at that point in helping me with my confidence.
Every new enterprise goes through our development program and we help you with marketing, with networking, with understanding policies and procedures for your business, for helping to make your business a great success.
They guided me through making my CV and my portfolio to make sure that you are good to go, that you are a good carer.
The Doing It Right scheme is exactly what I needed, and if I came along any bumps along the way and confusion, Community Catalyst just helped me to understand what it was I needed to do.
They helped me establish a range of essential documents, from policies to risk registers, safeguarding to invoicing, and I show this portfolio to new clients.
Michael helped me to concentrate my business in particular ways, and he has taken my business in this particular field to a new level.
I couldn't have done it without Community Catalysts. I just wouldn't have really known where to begin.
We have a whole range of people that are part of our program. Now going forward, one of those people could be you.
If you want my support or advice, it's completely free because we are fully funded through Bath and North East Somerset. So just very quickly then, I'm aware of time, so I'm just finishing. So we've got 34 enterprises that are up and running at the moment, offering a range of care, help at home services, and also involved with a number of kind of community projects as well. I mean, you will be getting a copy of this presentation when it's sent out, so I won't go through too long. And I'm really, I mean, I'm thanking for the opportunity to speak to you all today. If you're interested in, if you're involved with a parish council or a town council and you want me to come along and talk to some of your councillors, your members or your group, I'm very happy to do so. We're also looking for people who in the community that might need the support of a micro enterprise, and then I can put them in touch with some of the enterprises that are up and running already. I've got say 34 already in place, and we're looking to try and get around 60 by the end of March 2026. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. So if there is time for questions, I'm not sure if there will be, but thank you for giving me an opportunity to kind of present. And sorry we had to rush through it a bit quick, because I know that timing is an issue. Yeah.
Michael, you've done a magnificent job, and I really do thank you for clipping it, because we have had a presentation to you at the council. We've heard it, and it was in some depth, but thank you very much, and we look forward to you attending in future forums if you wish.
Yes,
give you more time. Can I move on then, please? Anybody else got any questions? There's no hands raised. That's good. Thank you very much for that, ladies and gentlemen. Can I call on Emma Collier, Development Manager with West of England Rural Network, WERN, who will explain more about their new Listening to Rural Voices project and associated survey. Emma.
Hi, I hope you can all hear me and see me. I also have a couple of slides. I don't know if I can share them from here, or alternatively, I did send them to Alison a little while ago. Oh, brilliant, lovely. Because otherwise I'm just not looking at the screen. Okay, for those of you who don't know us, the West of England Rural Network, WERN as it's more familiarly known, is a rural community council, and we're an kind of community infrastructure organisation supporting rural communities to thrive, as it says at the bottom. And essentially we do that through supporting and encouraging community-led action. We look at sustainability issues, so increasingly we're looking at environmental and climate change issues, but we also, the main thing is that we support individuals, families, communities, right up to organisations at parish and ward level, and indeed wider if they're specifically focusing on rural issues. And our role really is then to kind of mediate between what they want and the decision makers that are making decisions that affect rural issues. And we've heard a lot about that. So we do, we are able to communicate with local authorities, with WECA, with ICBs and the rest. But we work right down at the local level as well, working our village agents, go in and support individuals and families with the issues that they need. And particularly in Baines, we're able to work with all adults from 18 upwards. In other parts of the west of England, we're not quite so we're not able to be quite so diverse, and our work mainly focuses on older people. So what we're doing now is in preparation for developing our strategy for the next few years. We're really trying to build the evidence for what communities need in our local areas, and the idea is that would then set a baseline from which we can then measure what we do, but we can also communicate those needs to other organisations and decision makers in the area. And a cornerstone of that is the community survey. Actually, if we can have the next slide, you'll get these slides anyway, so there's a little bit more information. And you'll see the Listening to Rural Voices, Building a Stronger Network project is trying to identify the particular challenges of rural communities, of people living in rural areas. What is it about living there that makes things more difficult than it needs to be? What are the things that are better? What are the things that are hindering what you're able to do? And really trying to identify where the gaps are. And we're doing this across the west of England. So I'm hoping to kind of get around all these sorts of networks across the west of England. Obviously, I think you guys have been I've been able to get around, well, myself and my colleague Dick have been able to get around all 4 area forums, and I have reached out to South Gloucestershire and hopefully can do something similar. So we're now kind of building up that our knowledge, and the idea is to then develop one of the kind of ways in which we want to stitch together the village agent work, which you're probably quite familiar with at the local level, into the kind of work that we do at the more strategic level, is a community development project, which we're in the process of developing. And part of that is about building the evidence for it. So you'll see on the screen, there's a link to our survey, which is a QR code. So you can use your phone and just scan it with your camera, and it'll bring up the survey. It's a relatively short survey, lots of multiple choice, checkbox type questions, but also space to to express yourselves a little bit more fully. And indeed, if there's anything that you feel that I've missed, or the points you particularly want to say, then please do email me on emma@wern.org.uk. So I'll take any questions. Oh, and I guess finally, it's really to say that this project is running over 6 months. We aim to report back hopefully in July. So maybe one of us can come and talk to you in the autumn when we've got something to report back.
Right. No questions?
There is a question. Oh, Michael Alton's put something.
Yeah.
Contact in.
Yeah. If you're interested in knowing more about Community Catalyst, email me on Michael Alton, so you can read that and take the information. Okay, right. Well, thank you very much for that. We're just now talking about future meetings. So we would like suggestions for future agenda or discussion items. So topic ideas: transport, community safety, sustainable communities, children and young people, economic development, older people. Yeah, don't think I added that one. So you don't need to let us know now, but contact us if you'd like to see any of these topics on a future agenda, and we'll put the email address in the chat and in the follow-up. So if you'd like any organisations to take part in a community showcase item to highlight their work, then yeah, that would be good. So let us know. And we'd also like to know suggestions for people and organisations that should be invited to join the forum's mailing list.
Eleanor has a hand up there, Linda.
Yes, Eleanor?
Well, I was just thinking, given what I really think we've had some good contributions tonight. It might be a good idea to go for the third sector organisations, and I was going to suggest Swallows for number one. This is a Westfield
Right.
charity working with those with learning difficulties. With an
Yeah, it's a
outfit in
brilliant
Radstock
charity.
and Peasdown.
Yeah.
And Chilcompton. So
Yes, indeed.
I'm suggesting Swallows, but we could also do Age UK or RNIB, or there's a shop going to open in Radstock apparently very shortly, so that might be very interesting. So
yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that, Eleanor. Okay, then, so I think that as you know, all forum meetings are open to the public, so share any information, and anyone you think might be interested, get them to log in or come to the meetings when we have them face to face. So the future meetings, we are having a break during the pre-election period for the Wecker Mayor. That's in May, but we will be meeting again in June. And we propose that the next two meetings are face to face. Brilliant. Oh, I do like those. So anyone who's got any ideas as to where we could do that, so potential venues, that'd be brilliant. We've got dates here: 18th of June, 17th of September, and 24th of November. Now they're all at 6 o'clock in the evening. We haven't got, oh no, the November one is going to be online, but the first two are going to be face to face. So if any of you have got any ideas as to where would be a good place to hold them, then please let everybody know ASAP. Okay, then, well, thank you very much for coming. And where are we? Oh, we're only, 12 minutes over. So I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Night.